Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I am currently doing a no spend challenge. I'm trying to see how long I can go without spending money at the grocery store. This is a great time to come up with some new recipes, which you'll be seeing later on in the video. But first, I'm making a modified version of a meal I love. I have these cherry tomatoes that are starting to wrinkle, so I do need to use these. And I've got some of these leftover tortillas that I picked up at Trader Joe's a couple of weeks ago. I've been keeping these in the fridge. Most of the Trader Joe's tortillas don't have as many preservatives in them, so they do go bad faster. You do have to keep those in the fridge. And then I've got some leftover red peppers, and I always have refried beans in my fridge, and I have just over a fourth of a small white onion. So I thought I would make fajitas with these ingredients. I couldn't find a pic of veggie fajitas, but if you want to make chicken fajitas, I have a super easy recipe for sheet pan chicken fajitas that I'll link at the end of this video. This is a great meal to make when you have some members of your family that eat meat and others that don't. I cut up a few of the tomatoes and I left some of them whole, and I'm actually going to be saving some of that onion, so I only used about half of it. And if I want to, what I can do is make these vegetables and then pull out some for some pasta. I don't have to use them all for fajitas if I don't want to, because the kind of mixture that I'm making with the spices that I'm making would go perfectly with some pasta, and they would really be great with some rice. So those are two options for this. But I am definitely in the mood for fajitas. I haven't had these in a while. And I have the most delicious recipe for seasoning for fajitas. I do wish I had some green bell pepper to go in here as well. I do love the flavor of green bell pepper, especially against the sweetness of the red peppers. I'll let this cook on low while I make the fajita mix. To start out with, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of paprika, and that is a Spanish paprika, which is smoky. And then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of sugar. And also, if you want to get your phone ready, I will show the ingredients here on the end, and you can just take a screenshot if you want. This is my onion powder, and it always gets a little clumpy. But I'm going to do 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and then 1/2 teaspoon of ground cumin. I don't like any heat in my fajitas, but if you do, you can always add in some cayenne pepper. This is a great recipe if you want to do, the homemade Christmas gifts. You could get a cute little jar at a discount store, or even one of those little silver canisters, and then you could print out a label for this. And it would be such a cute and customized Christmas gift. Okay, lastly, I'm adding in the salt, and typically that's going to be a teaspoon of salt. And I noticed even my salt was kind of getting clumpy. Okay, and here is the recipe, and like I said earlier, I did reduce the salt in mine. I only used a 1/2 teaspoon, and adding cayenne pepper is purely optional. I do recommend using full salt and not adding any cayenne pepper if you plan to make this as a gift. And if you do make a little jar of that as a gift for someone, you're going to want to times that recipe by about 10 to get the quantity that you need. I know that cilantro isn't normally used in fajitas, but I do have this super fresh cilantro in the fridge, and I've had this for a couple weeks. Generally, this only lasts a few days, but this is, I think, one of those varieties that is longer lasting. I think we've talked about that before. There are tons of different varieties of cilantro. One variety that I was reading about was called Santo Long-Standing Cilantro, and I have a feeling that this is one such variety. And I'm cutting up the stems along with the leaves because they are just as tasty as the leaves. You do want to add the seasoning at the very end because there is sugar in there, so it is going to have a tendency to burn. So you want to make sure that your heat is on low. And this is one of those aromatic dishes that I love to cook because when you're cooking it, people come into the kitchen. When I made this, Justin was like, "Oh my gosh, what are you making? It smells so delicious." And it was basically just this fajita mix. And I'm kind of surprised I didn't add any fresh garlic. I guess I forgot, but I do have garlic on hand. That would have been really nice in here. But we do have the garlic powder in the seasoning, so that's fine. And I'm just strategically placing the onions and the tomatoes and the peppers because I like to make sure that I get a bite of each in these. And the cilantro is going to add a lot of freshness to this. I'm adding just a touch of red hot to give it that added vinegar because this does need that balance. And this is so delicious. If you guys don't have a good fajita mix recipe, I definitely suggest trying this because everyone loves this so much. And like I said, it would make a great Christmas gift. I thought I would try my second one with a crispy shell because the insides are all soft. Obviously, if you're making chicken fajitas or beef, then you've got something chewy. But since I'm using beans, I just thought it would be nice to try it with a crispy shell. And I used the mild green Tabasco sauce on this one. And I think that one was my favorite. But I really enjoyed the crispy texture along with the smooth, sweet, smoky, mildly spicy flavor of these fajitas. So delicious. The sweetness of the red peppers are definitely a standout for me. I just love the flavor of those. I don't know why I don't make these more often because I do truly love these. There's a place in town that when you order veggie tacos, they give you this fajita mix on top of like a whole bean taco with a corn tortilla shell, and that is really good. So I should try that version sometime. And for my next meal, I'm focusing on using up my oldest fresh vegetables. So these are items that need to get used. I've got some cabbage and some spinach. I have some leftover spaghetti from the last video that you saw, and then I have some chopped garlic. And I just started with the garlic in the pan, and then I'm just going to toss quite a few cherry tomatoes in there and let those cook. One of my favorite things to do with cherry tomatoes is use those in pasta dishes. And I am going to add just a touch of water to this so that my garlic doesn't burn, and it's also going to help the cherry tomatoes to cook. I want to get those nice and plump to where they're almost to the bursting stage. And cabbage here is going to add a lot of flavor to this dish, as well as nutrition. And we've talked about umami flavors on this channel before, and both tomatoes and cabbage are rich in umami flavors. So this dish is right up my alley. And in case you missed it, I did add salt and pepper there. So this is basically the most simple recipe ever. It just has basic ingredients like garlic, salt, pepper, cabbage, and tomatoes. And obviously, if you don't have fresh garlic, you can always use garlic powder. That broth is already so rich, it's going to be the perfect seasoning base for my noodles. And because I am dealing with some rich ingredients, I decided to add a few chopped Kalamata olives. I do like to keep a bottle of these in the fridge, and when I have an especially rich dish, I'll add these in, and it just takes the meal to a whole new level. One of my viewers was telling me that she will buy vegetables, but they tend to go bad before she can use them. And really the only vegetable that I have difficulty using before it goes bad is spinach. It kind of sneaks up on me, and I really don't like using old spinach. My son freezes it and uses it in his shakes. But the thing with me is I always plan to use it because it is so nutritious and I do want to add it into all of my meals. But then, you know, life happens. But I think probably the best way to go about that is just to maybe freeze half of it and then use that as a strategy. I've always said that you can put almost anything with spaghetti and make a delicious meal. Usually I'm using the pasta water and adding it in with a vegetable or something else to make a seasoning. But with this, there is no pasta water. I just used the broth of the cabbage and tomatoes to season this. This is so savory and so delicious, and you really can't tell that there is cabbage in it. I mean, if you came over to my house for dinner and I served this to you, I just don't think you would know that there was cabbage in there. It just kind of blends in and creates a nice flavor, but it's not distinguishable. And those olives are just perfect in this. They just make this dish a 10 for me. And I can't even believe that this is a 10 using these leftover ingredients that probably looked like ingredients that a lot of people would throw out. This is a recipe that's going in my recipe book. That's how much I loved it. You're not going to believe how good this tastes until you try it yourself. That's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope I've inspired you to get in your kitchen and try to make something with whatever ingredients you have on hand. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.
Morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way. Sometimes I give up, just wanna be on my own. Even in the darkest times, you give me hope. So